Hey guys, Captain Brian here with you, and just a couple tips on helping you get your topwater baits to walk a little bit better. Your Czar spook type baits, your cigar baits that are made to walk. Yeah, your popper baits, it's nice if you can get them to walk, gives them a lot more action, but you know they've already got the popping action. It's more of just letting that bait spray water and get that bulk, that bulge of the water out in front of it. The walking baits, their whole thing is on top, looking like an injured minnow trying to get away, and what you're trying to do there is imitate that bait going back and forth. A lot of people seem to have problems getting those baits to walk. The first two things I look for is either make sure you've got a split ring or an oval ring. I run all oval rings on mine. Just seems to give it a better action. Your line tie and your bait don't get caught up in the split like they do sometimes on a split ring. Otherwise, throw a loop knot down there and create an area that's got a loop on there so that bait can run free, because that's where all the action's coming from. The more you tie that front down, the less action it's going to give the bait. Most of these baits are weighted, so the weight's in the back, so when that bait's sitting on a 45, it rocks a lot better. You get a bait that sits pretty much flat in the water, it makes it really difficult to get that bait to walk, because that nose is too far in the water. That brings up the second thing, is line. Line's got to be either a monofilament, a floating type line, or a braid. If you use fluorocarbon sinks, and it's going to draw that nose of that bait down. And because what's going to happen, it won't make the bait sink, but the line's going to get under the water, and then as you pull it forward, that nose is going to want to dive. So braid or braid or monofilaments, the two lines you're going to want to use. Make sure you got a split ring or a loop knot. And the third most important thing is on your retrieve. When you're pulling that bait, you want to pop it. You don't want to throw it out and pull it. It's just a pop, a quick pop with your wrist, and making sure that you leave slack in the line after you've popped it. You don't want to reel up to that. You don't want to reel up to that bait and have that bait moving before you jerk it. You're not going to get as much movement out of it. You want to leave slack in your line, give it a pop. Leave slack in your line, and that lets that bait glide the way it's supposed to. If you give it a jerk and leave it on tight line, that bait's not going to glide. It's just going to come straight forward. It won't glide off to the side, and you get those nice, big, long walking actions. There are times they want the bait moved really fast, and they don't want it gliding way off to the side. Then you can do it a lot quicker, and I'll show you here. I'll make a couple casts here and show you what I'm talking about. First, you don't want to just throw it out there and just try to reel it back to the boat. And you can see, that was a gar. You don't want to throw it out and just try to reel it straight back to the boat and have tension all the time. You'll see it'll go back and forth, but most of the time it's just going to wind up walking just kind of straight into the boat. What you want to get is, when you throw it out there, you want to give it a quick snap of your wrist and let it glide off. Quick snap of the wrist and let it glide. And my bait, as you can see, the bait will glide off to the side and glide off. And it's got a nice side-to-side walking action. And you can pause as long as you want between those snaps. You know, if the fish are inactive, you can pop it and just let it sit. You can give it a hard pop. Now, if the fish are really active, what I wind up doing is I'll get it out there, and you can walk it really quick. And I'm not letting it have hardly any slack at all. I'm continually reeling all the way back to the boat, snapping my wrist all the way back. And a lot of times that'll look like an injured bait fish fleeing, or if you get one that rolls up underneath it, I love that one too, because you throw it out there, you're doing your normal walk cadence, letting it sit for a second, jerk, sit, and then all of a sudden fish rolls up underneath it. I like to give it a fleeing action, where it looks like that bait's like, ooh, trying to get out of there, because a fish was after it. But that's what your bait should look like coming back to the boat to you. Now each manufacturer's bait's going to walk a little bit different. Some are going to glide farther than others, but it's all the same principle. Just give it a snap and let it sit. Snap, sit, and you can let it sit as long as you want or as short as you want. It's all in the cadence and in what the fish want. You can snap it, let it sit, snap, let it sit, snap, let it sit, or work it real quick back to the boat. Well, those are going to be your basics on trying to get your walking bait to work better. One is either a split ring or a loop knot down on the nose of the bait, braid or monofilament line. I tried to use the mono when it's, my smaller baits, say like this one knocker or smaller, when you only got a 3 3/4, 4.5 inch bait or so or smaller. I'll go with the mono. If I'm throwing a really big bait, like the saltwater size spooks, you get a 6 7 inch size type spook, then I want to go to the braided line. And then your cadence, just making sure you're giving that bait time to glide before you pop it again, and just not reeling it straight into the boat. So hopefully those tips will help you get more fish this fall when topwater bite starts. Tight lines, I'll catch you guys on the water.